Here's a shocking statistic. The Social Security website has over 100,000 pages on it. To put this in perspective, the last published edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica had 32,640 pages. It's no wonder people are confused about Social Security. The good news is that I'm going to cull that information down and show you how some people get as much as 77% or more on their Social Security payment than their neighbor next door who has the exact same salary. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Jeff Schmidt. I'm a CPA, a registered Social Security analyst. I have an MBA from the Kellogg School of Management, and I have 25 years experience in the financial services industry. All right, let's get into it. But before we get into what you need to do to maximize your Social Security payment to get to that 77%, we need to make sure that you get your Social Security payment. We need to make sure that you actually achieve the earnings credits that you need to achieve in order to qualify for Social Security. The fact is, if you don't have enough earnings credit, it doesn't matter how much you earn or how much you contribute to Social Security, you won't receive a Social Security payment. In fact, you could contribute twice as much as your neighbor up the street, and he could get a reasonable Social Security payment, and you could end up with zero if you do it the wrong way. The Social Security Administration requires you to have 40 credits during your lifetime. That, for most people, is about 10 years worth of work. If you have 9 years worth of work, then you won't qualify for Social Security no matter how much you contribute. Let me give you a concrete example. In order to qualify for one credit, you need to earn $1,810, at least in 2025. That number goes up a little bit every year depending on inflation, but it's not a hard number to hit. $1,810 in one quarter is $7,240 in 1 year, $7,240 in a single year. That's about half the level of the poverty line here in the United States. So the vast majority of people actually don't miss this point unless they miss the actual mechanism behind it, which we're going to talk about right now. Here's the challenge with earnings credits. They're not actually tied to income other than on the low side. On the high side, if you earn a lot of money, you don't get more earnings credits than if you earn the $7,240 per year, at least in 2025. Let's say you're an incredible salesperson and you're a commission-based salesperson and you make $125,000 a year, and you've made that every year, in today's dollars anyway, for the last 9 years, and you say, you know what, I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm stressed out. I'm going to go live on the beach for the rest of my life. Social Security tax, the amount that you pay is 6.2% on $125,000. That's $7,750 per year, or $69,750 over the 9 years that you worked. $69,750. This is a very important point. Now up the street, your neighbor Alfred worked for 30 years. And Alfred didn't do as well as you. He earned $35,000 per year, but he did it for 30 years. And over his 30-year period, he paid $65,625. Now, let's assume Alfred was born in 1958 and he filed for Social Security in 2025. Because he filed in 2025, that would make him 67 years old, and he would receive a full Social Security payment. He received $1,511.14 per month from the Social Security Administration. That's $18,133.68 per year. Alfred contributed just under $66,000 in total tax to Social Security, total payments to Social Security. You contributed just under $70,000 in total payments to Social Security. Alfred gets $1,511, and you would not qualify for Social Security. And the reason is that you only had 36 earnings credits and Alfred had 40, yet you paid $4,000 more into Social Security over the life of your work history anyway, compared to Alfred. So job one is you need to get to 40 credits. And you can do it in 10 years. You can't do it in less than 10 years. You can do it in 20 or 30 or even 40 years, but you do need to get to 40 earnings credits, or just credits, as they're called today. This may seem like an odd example, but I will tell you this happens all the time, and it happens in a very specific situation. It's usually when a couple has a child and one of the two parents stays home to watch the child. They may work 9 years or 8 years or 8.5 years and then stop working for the rest of their lives. They may have even had a wonderful job where they made a lot of money and contributed a lot of money to Social Security. Statistically, though, those that miss by less than 2 years. Now, once you qualify for Social Security, the rest of this video is about maximizing your actions to qualify for the largest possible payment. And as I said before, you can take two people with identical earnings per year, and one will potentially earn as much as 77%, even more really, than the other if they just do a few things the right way. So step 2 is just knowing how your Social Security payment is calculated. And I'd say over 90% of the people who receive Social Security do not know how that number was calculated. So let me tell you how it's calculated. It's very simple. It works something like this. The SSA will take up to 35 years of your earnings history from the past, index it into today's dollars, and then divide that by 420. Here's how indexing works. Let's say you're 58 years old and it's January of 2025. You look at your earnings history and you realize that 10 years ago, when you were 48 years old, you earned $30,000 in 2015. So you would simply take your earnings from that year, multiply it times the 2015 indexing factor of 1.54, and your $30,000 is worth $46,200 in today's dollars. What about 20 years ago, in 2005? Well, the indexing factor in January of 2025 is 2.02. So you take your 2005 earnings and multiply them times 2.02. What about 30 years ago in 1995? Well, the indexing factor was 3.02, so you would multiply your 1995 earnings by 3.02. And you would do that every single year. It would be different for every year, and you would sum all of that together, and that would be your numerator. By the way, the SSA stops indexing once you turn 60, so 59 is the last year that they'll apply an indexing factor to your historical earnings. At 60 and above, the multiplier is 1. So let's say that over 30 years, you earn an average of $46,200 per year in today's dollars. You sum up 30 years times $46,200, that's $1,386,000. You take that and you divide it by 420. That gives you an average indexed monthly earnings number of $3,300 per month. Now let me be super clear here. $3,300 isn't your payment. The SSA is going to reduce that payment by putting that number through a formula called bend points. We'll talk about bend points in just a moment. But just know the higher that number, the better it is for you. Which brings me to the next point. There's a simple way to increase that number, and no, you don't need a raise. In this example, we use 30 years of earnings, but the SSA will give you up to 35 years of earnings. So simply in this scenario, by working 35 years at the same $46,200 per year, you're increasing the total in the numerator and dividing it still by 420 in the denominator. 46,200 times 35 is 1,617,000, and so that is the new number that goes in the numerator. 1,617,000 divided by 420 is $3,850 per month, not $3,300 per month. So by simply working the full 35 years, you're increasing your average index monthly earnings, in this case by about $550 a month. And so now you're taking $3,850 per month instead of $3,300 per month, and you're using that in the formula. Next, the SSA will take your best 35 years of earnings, not your first 35 years of earnings, and most people earn more at the end of their career than they do at the beginning. So if you have some particularly low earning years or just low earning years, letting those roll off and putting higher earnings years in their place will go a long way towards boosting the amount in the numerator. So as an example, if you earn that same $46,200 per year for 35 years, and then you earn $75,000 per year on average for the last 5 years, the amount in the numerator would increase to $1,761,000. You divide that by 420, that's 420 months, and you have $4,192.85. Now, once you've done everything you can to maximize your AIME, your average index monthly earnings, you need to take that number and put it into the Social Security formula called bend points. This formula goes up every year a little bit. It's based on inflation, but I'll give you the 2025 information just so you have it. The Social Security Administration will give you 90% of your first $1,226 in average indexed monthly earnings, and then 32% of the next $6,165 if you have that much. If not, they'll just take the difference between what you actually have and $1,226. And for the industrious few, if you exceed those numbers in AIME, they'll give you 15% of any amount up to $7,284. So if your average index monthly earnings is $4,192.85, you get 90% of 1228, which is 1103.40, and you'll get 32% of the balance, which is 2966 times 0.32. That's $949.32. This gives you a total payment at full retirement age of $2,052.72. Now you're saying, I get it, but Jeff, you keep using the term full retirement age. What does that mean? Well, full retirement age is not the age which you personally feel like it's time to retire. It's actually a classification by the SSA, and it's somewhere between age 66 and 67, depending on the year that you were born. If you were born in 1954 or earlier, full retirement age for you is 66. If you were born in 1955, it's 66 and 2 months. And the SSA adds 2 months for every year beyond 1954 to your full retirement age, up to a maximum of age 67. That's also the year 1960. So if you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is age 67. But what happens if you don't wait until full retirement age? Well, the SSA gives you something less than 100% of your Social Security payment. And do you know the average age at which people file for Social Security in this country? Well, it's not 67, it's not 66, it's not even 65 or 64, it's about age 62. Now, if you file at age 62 instead of age 67 or full retirement age, you get approximately 70% of what you would get at full retirement age. So, for example, if you received $2,052.72 at full retirement age, you get $1,436.40 at age 62. Your payment goes down roughly 6% per year. So let's assume that your full retirement age is age 67. If you filed 1 year earlier at age 66, you would receive 93.33% of your Social Security payment at full retirement age. If you filed at age 65, it's 86.66%. On the flip side, if you wait until age 70, if you're the primary insured, and you wait until age 70, and you would have received $2,052.72 at age 67, instead you'd receive $2,544.48 at age 70. So from age 67 up to age 70, it goes up at approximately 8% per year. The distinction, of course, is that your payment is higher, but you get less of them. Full retirement age has one other benefit. At full retirement age, you can earn as much as you want, and you don't have to give any of your Social Security payment back to the SSA. If you cross what's called an earnings threshold while you're receiving Social Security, there is an amount that you need to give back. For example, if this isn't the year in which you reach full retirement age, you need to give back $1 for every $2 earned over the threshold. The threshold for a non-FRA year is $23,400. If this is the year that you will reach full retirement age, but you're not there yet, you can earn up to $62,160. For every $3 that you earn beyond that amount, you have to give $1 back to the SSA. And once you reach full retirement age, you can earn as much as you want. Earnings, by the way, means earnings from a job or earnings from self-employment. It doesn't mean drawing from your IRA or your 401k. It doesn't mean rental real estate. It doesn't mean a pension, and it doesn't mean an annuity. All of those do not increase the definition of earnings as it relates to this threshold. And to complete this point, if you do have a Social Security payment reduction, they don't just keep it. They give it back to you after you reach full retirement age in the form of a higher payment. Let's talk about the spousal benefit, because a lot of you are married and you want to know how to optimize both your own payment and the spousal benefit. Well, the number one rule in the spousal benefit is that you need to be married for at least a year. You can't get married today and file for a spousal benefit tomorrow. It has to be 12 months or later from the date that you got married. Also, the spouse can't file for the spousal benefit until the primary insured files for Social Security, but importantly, they don't have to when the primary insured files. They can wait if they want to increase the size of their payment, if they're not at full retirement age, that is. Full retirement as a spousal benefit works similar to the way full retirement works for the primary insured. The maximum is 50% of the primary insured's payment. However, the penalties are higher if you file earlier. Don't ask me why, I don't know. It was probably some sort of backroom negotiation to balance Social Security, but just know that at age 62, the primary insured gets 70% of the full retirement age payment, whereas at age 62, the spouse gets 65% of 50% of the full retirement age payment. And finally, this is a very important point. even though the primary insured can get 124% of the full retirement age payment by waiting until age 70, the spouse does not get any more whether they wait past full retirement age or not. They'll get exactly 50% of the FRA or 100% of the spousal benefit. It's the same thing. Something that's not talked about very often is the divorced ex-spouse benefit. And yes, a divorced ex-spouse does qualify for a spousal benefit if certain things have happened. The first is that they need to have been married for 10 years or longer. The second is that they currently need to be single. And the third is that they have to, or their spouse or their ex-spouse has to be 62 years or older. The primary insured has to be age 62 or older. The ex also needs to wait until the primary insured has filed for Social Security unless they've been divorced for 2 years or longer. If it's been longer than 2 years, then the divorced spouse can file for spousal benefits with or without the primary insured having filed for his or her own benefits. Finally, the survivor benefit. Now, the survivor benefit is different than the spousal benefit simply because the spousal benefit assumes that the partner is still alive. The survivor benefit, by definition, means that they're not. And so the 50% limit doesn't apply. In fact, the survivor can receive up to 100% of the deceased's primary insurance amount. Specifically, if the deceased drew Social Security at or after the point where they reached full retirement age, well, the spouse qualifies for that amount. If the deceased filed for Social Security before reaching full retirement age, well, the spouse, the survivor, could have a smaller benefit. The reduction depends on how many months before full retirement age the deceased filed for Social Security. Now, there are some special rules that need to be noted around the survivor. They can actually file as early as age 60 and get a higher percentage than the spousal percentage or even the primary insurance benefit. If they file for Social Security's survivor benefit at age 60, they get 71.5% of the PIA. This percentage increases until full retirement age, at which point the survivor receives 100% of the spouse's primary insurance amount, the one that they were receiving or the one that they were due to receive. And to complete the thought, if the primary insured never filed for Social Security before they passed and they were above full retirement age, well, the spouse gets the benefit of that, and it's as if they had filed on the date that they passed. If they were below full retirement age, well, then the spouse gets the credit as if they were at full retirement age. It's important to note that the Social Security Administration won't give the survivor both their own Social Security payment and the survivor benefit. The SSA will give the individual the larger of the two. If you like this video, check out that video, 5 major Social Security updates for 2025. Also, don't forget to click subscribe and turn on notifications so that you get alerted the next time we post a video. The team here works very hard to deliver great content for you, and they really would appreciate it if you would subscribe and turn on notifications. It's their scoreboard of how well they did with the video. This is Jeff Schmidt. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on that video.